Hi guys, this is it, the new weekly chat. My name is Gerry, welcome. If you've been following this for a while, this would be week 20 of the weekly chats we have been doing up until this point. As you remember, it happened through Photo Africa, where we look at wildlife, photography, everything in between. However, the game has changed. As you can see from the intro there, it's now called Wild Eye. A quick one on Wild Eye, which we'll get to more later. Wild Eye is a new, very exciting company where Photo Africa has joined Moya Watenga, which was, you've met Andrew Beck from Talking Travel. Those two have joined up, we've got another business partner in, and we're taking things to a whole new level. So, this is it. This is the first weekly chat on Wild Eye. Very exciting. Now, nothing much is going to change from the content point of view. However, we are going to tighten things up a bit. We're going to try and get you to more places, lots more feedback from you guys, lots of more interaction, and lots of exciting stuff coming up. One small change though is from now on these chats will only go out on a Monday. So you can start your week off with a dose of not one but two weekly chats. First off, this one, which is going to stay just the weekly chat, and then Talking Travel with Andrew has split off. So that is now a separate video. So we're going to run two of those every Monday. One for photography, which is this one, and one for travel, where Andrew's going to look at a whole bunch of things from regulations, new lodges, hot lodges, specials, interviews, and the whole thing. So, where to start for today? I got a couple of listings here, and what I thought is I had a whole bunch of topics that I wanted to discuss, and then I got an email from, I think it's Lee Hayden, yeah, Lee. So, and reading through this email, it kind of made this whole chat come together, and I'm going to quickly read you extracts of this because I think what Lee says here echoes a lot of how a lot of you guys and me feel sometimes on equipment, how to approach photography, and the whole thing. So, if you will allow me, I'm going to quickly just have a quick read here after a sip of coffee through Lee's email, and then we'll spin off into what and where from there. Right, after a nice introduction, Lee's camera's in for repairs. I hope that's better. So I'm going to pick up here. This is from Lee's email. I must say I really love your site. The blogs and videos are great, and it's fantastic to have the user interaction which you don't get on many other sites. Thanks, Lee. Appreciate that. Or at least not to the same level. Appreciate that as well. She does ask any idea of introducing a user forum for new developments at Photo Africa. No, not for Photo Africa. For Wild Eye, absolutely. Watch the space. The website's coming online soon, and there's a lot of exciting stuff coming up. And now she carries on. For an amateur photographer like myself and on a budget, it's probably the closest we'll get to a safari shoot most years, and it's really inspiring. I visited the local zoo at the weekend to see what they have there and took my compact along. I plan on getting back as soon as I'm up and running with my DSLR again. Going out and getting the shot, that's what it's about. It really made me realize how great DSLRs are and how much better it is to have control over what you want to shoot. And that's why we do it. I mean, on a lot of the courses and stuff we do, we focus on taking control of the camera and not just letting the camera decide what the image looks and feels like, but you taking the control. So that's what Lee says here as well. Right, now initially when I got in touch with Lee, she had a question regarding the workflow of, from once you've now captured the images, where do they go? Do you import it, save it, back it up here, there, wherever? So I'm just going to fly through that because this is a topic for a future discussion for now. Regarding my comment on workflow, it's something I'm focusing on now that I can't get out there and shoot all that often. I've been impressed enough to buy Lightroom 3, good call, for the more detailed and better quality control over the provided Nikon software, and looking forward to going through some of my originals, seeing how they come out at the end in comparison to my current post-processing. A long sentence. Right. I understand that the Lightroom, like all softwares, have their idiosyncrasies, and you need to know where and how it's reading / storing the data in order to manage your files appropriately and come up with a suitable folder or structure and backup system. Very important. I think for me as an amateur and hobbyist, it's going to be all RAW files and Lightroom catalog files on one external drive, carbon copy to a second external drive, with my finished JPEG images saved locally and uploaded to Flickr. Now, that's just not for an amateur and hobbyist, Lee. That's pretty much for everybody. You should have copies of copies of copies. Like when we went to the Masai Mara recently, after every day shoot, we would come home, we would back it up onto the laptop and onto an external hard drive. I mean, there's two types of hard drives. Those that have broken and those that are going to break. So you need to keep double copies of these things. Once you've then worked with them, is your workable images that you're going to post online or publish, those you can put one side and then use from there. But keep your raw files safe, 2-3 copies if you can. Also remember, a DVD has a limited lifespan. The moment you finish cutting that thing, it starts deteriorating. Whether it's 1, 10 or 100 years, it's not going to last all that long. So keep your raw file safe. So Lee, from a workflow point of view, I mean, and backing up, I think you're pretty much on track. That's very close to what I do, so yeah, well done on that. Keep it going. With regards to the processing and the actual workflow from importing, processing, exporting, that's going to be a video in the upcoming weeks. Right. Then, and this is what I kind of want to latch onto this email, and we're going to roll into a few things from there. Kind of following on from this, from the email again, is something I've realized into my journey into photography. There are hundreds and thousands of great resources out there online, and there are some very generous, friendly, and caring people out there willing to share their knowledge and experience. This is fantastic. You see, that's what I've been saying all along, guys, is sharing the experience, sharing the knowledge, sharing the photography. That's what it's about. So Lee says the same thing. What I feel is lacking, however, is content related directly to getting the most out of amateur equipment. In most cases, we can't get access to top-end lenses with f5.6, commonly the biggest aperture for even the best budget. We also can't go on safari trips so frequently. This doesn't mean, however, that we can't make great photos or find interesting subjects, but we just have to work at it, especially the background, and that's where I'm going to stop on this one. Working on the background. Now, as you guys will know, hopefully, when you looking at blurring that background, it's a common thing, and a lot of the time that's when when a new photographer, will look at an image of a professional, the background is all soft and blurry. Now, that has to do with 4 things. Number 1, the aperture of your lens, the number 2.8 all the way up to 22. The second thing is the distance from you to your subject. The third one is the distance of your subject to the background that you want blurred. And the fourth one is the focal length, or the zoom that you are using. So, run them again. It's the aperture you are using. It's the distance from you to your subject, the distance from your subject to the background, and the focal length you are using. So, if you cannot change your aperture lower, for example, than f5.6, like Lee says in the email, then you're going to have to look at those other 3. Alright, I'm going to just spend a bit of time on this. So, look at this example. This is an image I took probably about 2005, 2006, and this was taken with a Sigma 50-500 at 500 mils and f6. So now if you look at the zebra sharpened in focus, that was the focal point, and the vehicle behind it is soft, but it is still not completely out of the image. Right, the distance in this image from me to the zebra was the same as from the zebra to the other vehicle. Alright, so that's two of my variables there. I shot at f6.3, sorry, because I couldn't go under that. So it's f6.3. Distance from me to zebra is same as from zebra to background, which is the vehicle. So I could not go at my focal length of 500, which I wanted to keep. I could not drop my aperture lower because it's determined by the lens. So what did I do? I went closer. So I got closer to my subject, which means the closer I am to my subject, if that distance is smaller than the distance from my subject to the background, I will blur that background more. Right, so this is the example. Look, it's a close of the face, but here you will see that the zebra is in focus, but look at the background on the side, back, a lot more blurred. That came in from me not being able to use the one variable. I chose to rather get closer, but do it safely. Don't take chances. I got closer, and that blurred the background even more. Alright, small example, hope that makes sense. Another option is just look at the elephant shot that's coming up now, is if I cannot blur the background and I can't go under 6.3 on my lens, or 5.6 like Lee mentions, is look for ways to compose differently so that you don't have to worry about the background. So if you look at this image, the elephant in the middle, nice and sharp, the one just to the left back of it starts to go out of focus. But it's a part of the story, so it doesn't matter. So, one of your 4 variables, we'll run them one more time. Those variables are, dogs barking, moving on. Right, variables are, number 1, aperture. The lower that number, 2.8 all the way up to 11, the lower that number, the more blur you'll get to the background. Number 2, the focal length. The more focal length you have, the more blur you'll have in the background. So a 600 will blur it more than a 300, right? The distance from you to your subject, and the distance from your subject to the background. If you are closer to your subject than the background is, more blur. So play with those variables. Alright, now as an example, just one more image. This cheetah I shot in the Masai Mara. This was shot with I think it was a D3S with a 600 and at f4. Now here you can see very well that the blurring of the background happens in front and back. So look at this image. The cheetah in the middle there is in focus. So everything in that range away from me will be in focus. Everything further away but also closer will also be out of focus. So you can see those two bands of blur across that image. Right, now I found a very little interesting website which you can play with. Look, if you're scared of numbers, don't worry about it. Look at this last 5 minutes again. If you want to find out a little bit more, check out this little video clip that I pulled off of a website that will determine, depending on the camera and the lens you are using and the distance from you to your subject, how much blur will there be behind and in front of your subject. Watch this. Okay, as mentioned, this is a little depth of field calculator that you can find on the internet. I'll send you the link to this one. What this gives you, once we've now discussed the whole depth of field thing and how it affects your image, the numbers initially seems like quite a bit. After a while, you do start getting an idea of what your lenses can do, but an interesting exercise is to run through this little calculator, and it will give you all the information on the right-hand side here. So the subject distance, which we'll enter now, the depth of field, so the near limit where the depth of field starts, and then the far limit where the depth of field ends. And the total amount of your image or your subject that you are looking at, how much of it will be in focus in your depth of field. It gives you the percentages in front of the subject and behind the subject just in focus, and then the hyperfocal distance and circle of confusion. Right, for now, we're going to stick to this because that is what we've been speaking about. In this little website, you click on the drop-down arrows, and it gives you a whole range of cameras. Point and shoot, old film cameras, whole big range of things here. So for example, let's just go with something simple now, like, let's down the D7000. You enter a focal length, so you check on your lens where we are here. Remember, the higher the higher your zoom lens, the more zoom you have, the more focal length will become important and more noticeable in your images. So let's go to 400. Now, stay with 300 because your 70 to 300 is quite a standard lens we use. Stay with the f5.6, like Lee mentioned, and then the subject distance. Let's say we are 30 meters from our subject. Click on calculate and see how this changes. So you can now see if this is what you are using and the parameters you have set, depth of field, you have a total of 2.24 meters from you. That will be in focus. Right, so in front of my subject, 1.808 meters, behind my subject, 1.16. Outside of those ranges, both towards me and away from me, from my subject, will start blurring and go out of focus. Now, let's keep everything the same except drop this down to a 2.8. Right, we're on 2.8. Look at the difference here now. So, near limit, 29.5, total 1.12. So now in front of my subject, only about half a meter in front and behind will be in focus. So that soft background we're looking for does become a lot easier with the lower lenses. But now check this out. Let's go back to that 5.6, and now you try and get a little bit closer. Alright, see what's happened. Initially 30 meters, yeah, that was our original setting. You have about 1 meter and 08, 1 and 16 in front of behind. If you now get a little bit closer to that subject, see what happens. Now it drops down again. So similar to as if I were to just change my selected f-stop to 2.8, by moving a little bit closer with a telephoto lens, you can also obtain that shallow depth of field. So remember, there's always more than one way to do these things. The lens does help, but you can play around with it. I will have the link for this website up, little depth of field calculator online, for you to go and check and play around with. Right, more next time. Right, there we go. That's the depth of field calculator, and I will have that for you as a link below this image once we stick it on the website. Don't get too stressed about it, guys. Often people get in a complete tiz about the technical and this and that, and they don't actually get anything done because they're so worried about what if, what this, what that they don't actually take the image. Right, we're here to do photography, and that's what it's about. So, know the technical, apply it, but worry about what you see and what you want to photograph. Alright, moving on from there. So anyway, if you guys have any emails, likely we have got questions, things for us to discuss, please send them through. Emails will be at the end of this video. Alright, moving on. Also, another request I had in this week was, someone was asking, how do you put the frames around? If you look at a lot of my images on the old Photo Africa site, and also on the Facebook page for Photo Africa, there was, I used to put a frame around, a white frame and then a small black frame around that. Question came up, how do you do that? Because it's nice when you put your stuff online and you're going to showcase it to the online world, to just wrap it up a bit, to package it and to make it look nice. So, by request, a quick tutorial. This is in Photoshop, so you need Photoshop to run this one. How to put frames around your images. Nice and simple one. I'll see you after this. Right guys, as discussed, today we're going to have a quick look at how you can add frames around your finalized image for use in online posting, like on Facebook and your own website and things like that. So, let's say you've done all your changes to the images. You've done your color adjustment, white balance, you've sharpened and everything, and now you want to take your final image and just make it a little bit more impressive for that online presence. So, we want to add a frame around this. Easy one. In Photoshop, this is Photoshop, you're going to scroll all the way up to Image, click once, scroll down to Canvas, click again, and that'll open up this dialog box over here. Now from the top down, you've got the current size of this image on my disk. So it's a small web-sized image. Well, it's a big web-sized image. It gives you the width and the dimensions at the top. And this area here is where you're going to work and configure on the framing. Now, I always keep relative check down here. What that means is I don't have to add the width of my image in. I can just add whatever I add in here will get added onto this. So for example, if I add 2 centimeters onto this, it's going to add onto this. If I did not have relative ticked, I would have to, if you see the difference, the width is 21.17. Now the width of the frame with the image will be this. It becomes a bit messy after a while, and you have to keep up with the math, and it's just not as much fun. Right, so you click on relative, whole lot easier. You can just enter the value of the amount of frame that you want. Alright, I prefer personally to work with percentage. So to get that, you just click on these drop down arrows and you can select from a whole range. If you know the exact amount of pixels, inches, centimeters that you want to add as a frame, then you can choose them from here. For me, percentage works quite well. Now, I'm wanting to add a frame that looks uniform all the way around. So I've got to just keep in mind width is more than height. So automatically my height is going to be a slightly larger frame than width. This is all comparatively. So if I'm going to say 4, for example, there, and 6, percentage, this little block here shows me in which direction this frame will be applied. So my image, this grayed out block in the middle is my image, and the direction of the arrow shows me that frame is going to be applied all the way around. Next and last step, click on the color down here, and here I can select whatever frame color I want to go around that image. For me in this case, let's go with white. So I go my top left corner, click OK, everything's done, and I click OK. Boom, there's my first frame. Simple as that. So you can now keep on doing this again and again and again, but you'll see that the frame here looks uniform all the way around. So if I want to add a frame just to one certain edge, like I do on most of my online work at the bottom, same steps. You're going to go up to image, click once, come down to canvas, click again, and it opens up this whole block again. So I'm going to go to percentage. Then I'm going to go and I want to see, I only want to add to the bottom, or I want to add a frame to the bottom area here. So I'm going to move this thing to the top, which now says that is the only directions, so side, diagonal, down, diagonal, and side, that it will be added to. So if I'm now going to work just on height, let's say I want to add another 5% of frame, this is my image, it's going to add it to the bottom. I haven't added width, so nothing will be applied there, it's only going to work down. I want white again, so that being set up, click OK. Done. So now you can see it only added this thick bit of frame down in the bottom here. Okay, now I want to wrap this up and add a little black border around the whole picture. You can keep on going endless. You can do this 2, 3, 50, 60 times if you want to. Create a very interesting border effect. Let's wrap this up. I'm going to go to image, I'm going to go to canvas size, and I'm going to go percentage, keep the relative. Now again, I want to add my black frame around the entire one, so I have to keep my block in the middle, so the arrow shows me it goes all the way around. I'm going to click on my color, select black this time. Okay, so let's just do a small. We'll do 2 and 3, which means it's quite a small frame that's going to come around. So there's my percentage, there's where it'll be applied to, and my color is black. I click OK, and I'm done. Right, so pretty easy. You can just keep on going step by step by step how you want to add this. Now, if you're looking to do watermarks and names and things, you can now either go and place your images at the bottom here. You can write text in here, happy birthday grandma, whatever you want to put at the bottom. That is framing in Photoshop. Pretty easy. Any other request, give us a shout. Otherwise, we'll be back next week with more tutorials. Alright, there we go. So you see, you can get creative. You can add many colors around, you can carry on and so on and so forth. I'm also going to be playing around with that because once our new Wild Eye website launches, which should be in the next week or so, watch the space, I'm also going to look at how I can best take my image, represent it on the website, and also make it pull through. So you create a theme from the image into the colors of the website and that. So we'll try and pull the whole thing together. I think that is pretty much about it for this week. Let me have a quick look at my notes here. Yeah, that really is it. So, as mentioned, from now on, these weekly chats, the weekly chat, which is this one, and Talking Travel with Andrew, will be happening on a Monday morning. Alright, so you can start off your week, join us for a cup of coffee first thing in the morning, and yeah, have a look at travel options, things like this, tutorials, save them. We're also playing with the idea of maybe dropping a short one on a Friday, a little 2-3 minute thing, to give you ideas and things to do, both from a travel point of view and photography. I know sometimes when you head out and you want to go and photograph something, you're lacking of inspiration, you know what to go where, so we're going to try and give you some of that. What else? Right, wrapping up. Now, remember, Andrew and my Twitter feeds will stay the same, still the same things. However, if you are on Twitter, you should have already joined Wild Eye SA, one word. That is the new Twitter feed for Wild Eye, the new company, which has to do with travel, photography and equipment. So, equipment reviews, destination reviews, videos, info, tips, tutorials, a whole bunch of things. So you have to follow that. The link will be on behind this. Also, we have created a Facebook page for Wild Eye. Again, you can go to facebook.com/wildeyesa all together. Link will be at the end of this. Join us there. They will be doing updates, posts, videos. You can upload your stories, your comments, your questions, and we can take it from there. Alright, so after a whole lot of carrying on about things changing, we're finally there. So, welcome again. This is Wild Eye. If you're in Johannesburg, we're based in Fourways at the Design Quarter. Come and pop in for a coffee, and yeah, let's chat. See where it takes us. Because conversation, guys, whether it's about travel or photography, is the only way we are going to create a community of like-minded people to move forward with. And that's what we're after. We want to make this whole thing fresh again. I mean, there's a lot of people out there doing photography and safaris and all of these things. But unfortunately, and I've said this before, there's a lot of ego and there's a lot of it turns into a pissing contest after a while, excuse the French. But we want to try and make this friendly again. So if you haven't been or you didn't want to step into that world yet, now's your opportunity. We're going to make it friendly and fun for everybody. So, and us having fun in the same time, of course. So that is it for this week, guys. I will see you next week. Make sure to check out Talking Travel with Andrew, also on the Wild Eye website and on the Facebook page. Send us your comments, your questions, contact details at the end of this video. See you next time.